Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me once again Eric McCormick. Eric, it's good to have you back on.
Hey, Alfredo, it's good to be back.
Right on. Yeah, we had a very good conversation. And last time, what have you been up to in the meantime?
I've been working a lot. It's kind of a busy season. I'm not allowed to, I signed a non-disclosure so that things that I do wouldn't cross with my professional life, but I'm a gardener for a commercial greenhouse. And we've been doing a lot of interesting things. We got a late start this year because 4 months ago I was in prison, didn't have the job, and the job didn't really exist. But we've been trying to figure out ways to source fresh produce to people. We live in what's called a grocery desert here, so it it's really hard to get good food. You have to drive 30 miles in any direction to get fresh produce and things like that.
Yeah,
So we're trying
I
to fix
imagine it's
that a little
expensive.
bit.
I imagine it's extra expensive too.
Yeah, Dollar General rules around here.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Dollar Generals and Walmart.
Right on, man. Well, yeah. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about ritual, piecing together a ritual. But I mean, as far as ritual goes, how would you define ritual, Eric, in your words?
Well, it gets tricky. I mean, what we're talking about specifically is probably spell work, casting a spell or doing a ceremonial ritual. But ritual is really anything that you do with intent and focus of will to me. And so everything that I do, I try to ritualize it as much as possible, whether it's waking up in the morning, making my bed, brushing my teeth, just putting that kind of clarity and focus on whatever it is that I'm doing makes it a
Mhm.
ritual and infuses it with intention.
Yeah, I would agree with you because everybody does ritual every day, whether they like it or not, whether they want to admit it or not. It's just the difference between us and everybody else is that we have a magical mindset. So we go about our day, um, and we think in terms of how energy really works. Um,
Yeah. Yep,
if
definitely
you
that.
uh, energy, energy flow, numerology, all that stuff. It plays a big part into what we do throughout our day, as opposed to the average person who goes about their day. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that there's a certain mindfulness that goes along with practicing magic in general. That it's just we want to figure out the why things happen and why they work and why things react certain ways. So what I guess that's a long-winded way of kind of saying that, yeah, yes, I think that there's a certain mindfulness that goes along with the practice, definitely.
Right. Because the thing about magic is, as you go about obtaining magical knowledge, experience in doing magic, your vibration changes. And as a result, you change. It does allow the subconscious mind to bring certain epiphanies to the conscious mind, certain things to light, um, and it just changes you as a person. And I think that's something that some people take for granted. Now, as far as ritual goes, one thing that people overlook is it's good about creating your environment, setting the right tone. Obviously, it's not good to have distractions. You don't want to have the TV on in the background. And hey, some people, practice chaos magic. If that works for them, great. But for me, I like to concentrate. I like to have my space clean. Um, I like to, just have the lights out and candles going so I can just, again, focus.
Yeah.
You have a similar approach.
Yeah, I definitely do. And a lot of it is about setting the mood. It's like you're taking the energetic forces of the universe on a date and trying to get them to do what you want in a way, you know?
That's a
So
good
there's a
way of
certain
putting
amount
it.
of seduction that goes into it, and you wouldn't bring a
Yeah.
date back to a messy house with your,
No.
you know, with your socks laying on the floor and dishes undone in the sink. You know, you're not going to get very far like that. Um,
Especially if you're contacting a deity.
yeah, definitely. Um, it's when I had a teacher explain to me one time, and she wasn't a metaphysical teacher, but she was aware that I was into metaphysics and magic. And she said one time, like in the Necronomicon, in the Keys of Solomon, it's all about preparation, the cleanliness, the preparing the space, preparing your materials. You fast, you prepare your body, you prepare your mind, you meditate, you do mantras, you put yourself in this zone. And by the time you're clean enough to do the ritual and you're prepared enough to do the ritual itself is really secondary to the mindfulness that went into preparing the ritual. It puts me in mind of like the Japanese tea ceremonies, where they would be so intricate and the smallest little detail spoke volumes. You know, the way that they cut the lemon, the way that they had the flour just so on the table when it was approached. Every single nuance has been taken into consideration to create this experience, to create this emotional resonance, and to get your emotions across to the other person. Magic is exactly like that. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it seems to me that the Eastern mindset tends to have more of a unique outlook and appreciation um, for the spiritual, a little more than a Western mindset, because that's, stuff like that people in the West don't really pay much attention to. I'm not saying everybody in the East does, but as over the years, as the East has their literature and their ways have become more mainstream, I think that it's benefited the Western mindset to kind of take a look from a different point of view. What do you think?
100%. Everybody has something to contribute, you
Mhm.
know, to this thing that we're doing here on Earth. This now, you know, everybody has contact with each other. Cultures are not quite as um, segmented and compartmentalized as what they used to be, I think, you know. And people always look to the East, the Middle East, as a source of magic. You know, a lot of people look to Egypt, they look to Christian mysticism, to the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism. The there's a um, there's just a really strong magical tradition. The Muslim tradition, the Sufis, also, you know,
Yes.
the Islamic mystics. There's just every culture from the Middle East and the Far East seems to have that sort of connection to magic closer to the surface than we tend to in the West. But I think some of that's being dissolved now. I think that some of the stigma involved with it is going away. It's becoming a lot more mainstream here also, magic in general and spirituality specifically.
Well, and I'm sure that there's ways that us in the West spiritually influence people in the East in ways we may not even recognize because we're looking at it from our point of view. But now let's go to the next point that I wanted us to talk on about ritual is intention. Intention can make or break a spell, in my experience, because if your intent is not completely clear, you may get little to no result. Because you're directing energy is what you're doing. And if you're not completely sure or well defined as to what the point of your ritual or spell is, the energy's going to be like, well, where do I go? You know, it can it can make a big difference. What do you think?
That yeah, of course, you know, you want to be very focused. Before I will write a ritual down, when I've decided that I'm going to use magic for a thing, first I will kind of exhaust the mundane resources that I have in pursuing whatever it is that I'm after. And I
Mm,
like for my magic to be very specific. What I look to first a lot of times is what's preventing me from achieving this or having this. I've got my goal, it's clearly set, and I've focused on it. Now, what is between myself and that? And rather than trying to draw things to me, I will try to remove the things that are preventing it from being
mm,
there, if that makes sense. And I think there's a lot of that's a lot of poison path herbalism goes along with that, about the dissolution of things and then the recoagulating them in a manner that is more pleasing to you and more in line with your will.
mm. Yeah, this is one reason why shadow work is so important, because as you progress in that, it will get rid of the distractions one by one and allow you to focus more, because there's just parts of us that are useless and just gotta go. They're not
Yeah,
serving
we
any.
owe Young a lot for his work into the shadow, definitely. Um,
What's that?
we owe Young a lot
Yeah, yeah.
for his
I agree.
shadow
I
work.
agree.
I mean, I don't even know how people would have dealt with the darker parts of their nature before that. It would have been very Machiavellian, I think, and it probably was unhealthy a lot. People probably didn't have as much as good of a grip on you can be these ways, but you don't have to allow them to rule you. And there can be good qualities too. You know, the things that you call your bad qualities are a lot of times the things that either helped you survive when you needed them or things that empowered you
Mhm.
when you were weak.
Right. And I encourage any occultist who hasn't to study psychology, because it's very beneficial for magic. Because with magic, you're influencing the subconscious mind. You're influencing the mind in general. Um, and in studying psychology, it can bring certain breakthroughs. Um, and there's a reason why I think the establishment has tried to suppress certain aspects of psychology. Maybe not allowing, certain things to become mainstream, or maybe certain psychology books have become obsolete, taken off the shelf. But it's very powerful stuff, especially if you're on the path that we're on.
I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, so you may open up a can of worms here that was completely unintended. So without going down that particular rabbit hole,
Right.
there's definitely, and it comes down to, do we choose this entertainment, or is it or do we choose from a list of pre-programmed things that we don't really have any control of and basically amount to the same thing? Because I'm holding in my hand while I talk to you access to pretty much all of the combined human knowledge that we've ever written down in human
Mm.
history. Like pretty anything that within any kind of normal boundary, I can look up and know the answer to right now, from list of presidents to recipes for apple pie,
Right.
ancient text, everything's right here. And we use it to look up funny cat videos and watch podcasts about what other think our magic should look like. And, it's like, where do you draw the line between it's their fault for taking it away, or it's our fault for not pursuing it?
I think that in the digital age of today, I think it's allowed certain people to have better discernment because back in the day before the internet, um, you had mainstream television, radio, um, and that's basically where you got your information. Most people, anyway. But now the internet's allowed other people to have a voice that the television stations wouldn't have given a voice to. And now people can hear certain viewpoints they wouldn't have been able to hear before. And so
Yeah,
now I think they're able to make a better decision as to what's bullshit and what's not.
that's true. But another aspect of that is everybody's got a voice now. So that you have to be much more discerning about
Yeah,
where you
and
take information from, who you
yeah,
allow to inform you.
and this is where doing your true will comes into play. Contacting your higher self, um, being more spiritually in tune, doing shadow work, um, meditation. All these things have a part to play in discerning which voice is true and which voice is not.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
that's, I mean, yeah, everybody can listen to everybody's voice now, but only those who are doing their true will and who are spiritually in tune are able to sort through the bad and the good, or sort through what's beneficial, what's not.
Yeah, and not as, aside from that, there's more community now. So you're not on your own in filtering all of this out either. You're able
Mm,
to kind of take in a certain amount of information and kind of bounce it off of other people and see what other people think about it. I think that when I'm creating a ritual in particular, a lot of times I will look at other people's rituals for something similar and
mm,
say, okay, what did they do? How did they do it? Why did they use this particular incense? Why did they use this particular color of candle? That's an odd choice to me. And
mm.
it causes me to be more aware of my own situation by doing that, to look at how other people have approached this problem magically.
Yeah, well, it's it's better. That is actually better now in the digital age because now we can connect and link more with our local uh, occult community. Because before, what would you do? Go to bookstores,
Get looked at
go
really
hang
funny a
out.
lot.
Yeah, maybe there was some kind of uh, spiritual store where you would pick up your incense and your crystals and etc. And maybe you would talk to somebody and get opened up to this group of friends that does practice magic. But now it's much easier to get in contact locally. I mean, like you can get in contact with someone like you and I.
Yeah,
We're not physically next to each other speaking, but we're on the internet. We're still learning from each other
yeah.
and still able to bounce ideas back and forth. But if you wanted to get in touch with your local occult community, um, I know I have using the internet and gotten in contact with more people locally than I would have before. Um, that does make that easier. Um,
It, it's crazy. It's weird when you get into this community because it's always like kind of below the surface. And then when you start to meet people and avenues start to open up, you realize how connected everybody really is and
mm,
how we're all on the same path trying to figure it out in different ways. And it's odd to me because so many people get stuck in a certain way of doing things and won't ever think outside of that box to the point of telling other people, oh, that's not how you do this. When we have no way to know that. There's no way of knowing that until you tried something and it definitely doesn't work. And even then, it might have been situational. How many times have you tried a spell written by somebody else and it didn't do anything for you at all? But you know it did something for them. You can see the evidence that it's done something for them. They've given you anecdotal evidence. Other people have tried it and it worked for other people also. Maybe it got passed down for years and years and it has consistency in working, but it just doesn't happen for you when you do it. I mean, it's a really hard thing to quantify. That's why I
Well, it's
think it's
just
important to take notes. It's important to record the results of what you get, you know?
yeah. Well, experimentation is a big part of the path, because how are you supposed to find your personal magic if you don't experiment, compare results?
Yes.
That's why keeping a magical journal is so important. Writing down the day you did the ritual, what its intent was, the astrological signs in the sky at the time. I mean, some people don't look at that. I take all that into account. Um,
I take it into some
Everything.
account too, but I don't hinge my practice on it.
Right, right. Same. I
I,
mean,
I
some
try to be
people.
aware of it, but
So it's like if I need something done, I'll just do it, whether the sign is right or not. However, I do
yeah,
think that astrology can play a big part in pushing the energy where it needs to go, and it's sort of like riding a wave. It's like when you see the wave coming, just get ready to go with the flow. You can go with the
yeah,
flow and it'll be more smooth, or you can not go with the flow and get it done anyway. It just and if your will is strong enough, it'll happen. That's the way I see it.
yeah. It's kind of like walking in a pool, and when everybody walks around in the circle of the pool in a certain direction, the water starts flowing along with that, and soon it becomes hard to go any other direction. I think astrology might be something like that. It's
Mm.
definitely, I felt times when I've done a particular ritual or um, a ceremony and it just felt off and it felt wrong. And I've done the same one later and everything went completely smooth and I had a much different energetic response from it. And I think that astrology and probably the phase of the moon even has something to do with that, but I don't know what it is yet. A lot of people have written a lot of
Well,
different things about. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that I do believe that first of all, I do believe in going with your gut feeling. I think that if you're going to do a certain magical working and you have a bad feeling about it, just don't do it. It's not the right time. Or if you go to light a candle and the candle goes out and you keep having to relight it, I take that as a sign as now is not the right time. Because I do believe there's a time and a place for everything. Um, but and also what we were talking about is, you mentioned the moon. I think the moon does affect us because we're mostly made up of water. The moon has an effect on the tides of the ocean. So why wouldn't the moon have a big effect on how we feel and how certain
Well,
aspects that that do affect us?
we're definitely talking about energetic synchronicities. And I used to work, anecdotally, I used to work in a developmental center for mentally insane people, for developmentally disabled people. And the cycles of the moon strongly affect people the less conscious they are of how it's affecting them. So if you're aware of your moods and you try to maintain a certain like composure about yourself, it's not going to affect you as much, of course, as if somebody just completely lets himself give in to any kind of emotion or influence on them. And the the moon definitely affects people. I mean, there's a reason, I guess it's called lunacy, right?
Yeah, or the word lunatic, where we get
Yeah.
the word from. So yeah,
So,
it's
but how much of that goes into deciding what I do? Like when I'm making alchemical tinctures, I try to be aware of the cycle of the moon. If I'm doing something for dissolution, I want the moon to be in waning. Why? I don't know. It just feels like I should. It feels like I'm supposed to. So that's how I do it. And I haven't seen any evidence that it's wrong yet. I mean, it tends
right. I
to
mean,
work.
and that could be your, your higher self, your spirit guides, just telling you things. Um, and that's you got to. But the thing is, you got to learn to quiet the mind to pick up on these things because the spirit world could be telling you a bunch of things, and you just don't get it, don't see it, miss it, um, because mainstream society has programmed us to, again, like we're talking about the static on the radio. They want us to have static so that we can't tune in to our inner selves, to our higher selves. We can't tune in to um, what the spirit world may be trying to tell us. So, I would take that as a sign of communication.
Yeah, I get it's crazy because so much of what we do seems subjective from the outside. But like if I'm going, let's say I'm walking down a trail and I see a broken stick pointing down a different path of the trail, I'm going to take that as a sign. Like you said, it probably was just a broken stick, but it's going to change my life forever because now I'm walking down this other path that I took as a sign. I took it as a sign subjectively. And you wonder how much of this is subjective and how important is that really? Does it matter if it's subjective, if it causes changes in the objective, if it causes changes in yourself and causes you to feel differently?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think people can just discern if you well as you progress on the path of a magician or on the path of a witch, you can usually you can usually tell if someone's full of shit or not. You can usually tell if someone has bad intentions or not because you're more in tune with your spiritual side. You sometimes things we just know. People don't have to tell us. We just know.
Yeah.
Um, then that's again that's part of progressing on the path. Just being able to just know things.
And something you said earlier too, it resonated with me. You were talking about studying psychology and
Mm,
how studying psychology is good for anybody practicing magic. And I would
yeah,
say further, studying almost anything is good. Just study a lot, know a lot. And people that practice magic tend to be people that study botany. They study plants, they study minerals. They know a lot about the earth and the elements. They know a lot about chemistry and biology. And as you pick up this knowledge, you become, I don't want to say less likely to be bullshitted, but you become more aware of what you believe and why. And I think that's really important in this. Like, not only magic, but why magic? Why do you believe in magic? Why is this the route that you choose to take to express yourself and to energetically, alter the world around you?
yeah.
So many people don't bother.
Yeah, it's important to answer those questions for yourself because you need a solid foundation to build on. I mean, if you're not completely sure as to who you are or why you're doing what you're doing or why you chose magic in the first place, is it really what you want to do? Is it really who you are? Or is it just a fad? Or is it just something, I don't know, something that's in right now?
When I started practicing magic, I did not know what I was getting into at all. I thought that I was going to see if it worked. I wanted to see if it worked. And I had a lot of time and I had some books. And So I tried spell casting, from the book. Like, and I had the book Boot Dark, and I didn't get much result out of it because that type of magic requires much more um, internalization and imprinting these symbols into your mind so that they carry certain meaning for you so that you can use them as a means of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I got into magic, the more I realized that it's a lot about changing yourself so that you will be the change in the world. And I know that sounds completely cheesy. I was trying to think of a different way to say it, but really,
I get what you mean.
it's about changing yourself so that you can cause ripples in the world around you so that you can send out the kind of energy that you want to draw back to you.
Mm.
I think the poison path taught me a lot of that, a lot of the dissolution. That's why I use poison in a lot of my ritual. Poison and blood are two common themes that I use often in a lot of different capacities. I
Mm.
also use the runes because that's my comfortable medium, and they make great sigils. And aside from that, I spend a lot of time internalizing them and making them mean something more than what.
Yeah, and you know, with me, lately, what I've realized is I'll take the Aztec alphabet, their hieroglyphics and stuff, their writing, and kind of like use those symbols, and I'll get results with that. Um, I just had decided to, study my background and culture, and I tend to get results with that. And I'm sure you have sort of a Nordic background, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that resonates. I do think that when you get in touch with the spirituality of your ancestors, it can make a big difference. I'm not saying for everybody, but in my experience, it does.
yeah, and that's especially with the northern tradition. That's a real tricky subject because there's a lot of borderline racist conversations that spring out of that, like who's allowed to practice what kind of magic. And I don't think I get told fairly regularly that I'm a disgrace to my gods or that I'm not doing this the right way, or, that people have
Yeah.
a lot of different opinions on things. And people get married to a certain idea or a certain concept, and they don't understand that that may not be true for everybody.
Mm.
And different people are going to find their path to power differently. I'm a big fan of Edgar Casey and a lot of the stuff that he taught. And he said in one of his trances that every single person has a unique power. Like he had
Hmm.
these abilities where he could heal people and he could lay on top of a book and absorb the contents of that book while he was asleep. And everybody's abilities are going to be different. And no two people are going to be exactly the same. So no two
No,
people's ritual practice is going to be the same because what I
no.
need my ritual to do is going to be different really than what you need it to do at the end of the
Hmm.
day.
Right. Everyone has different needs. Everyone's living a different life. Everyone has different backgrounds. Everyone's had different reincarnations. Everyone has different ancestral background. So I think all that plays a part in how you go
Have,
about doing your magic.
have you ever wrote a ritual out for somebody and got to watch them do it without your input?
Um, yeah, I mean, with not really going into much detail,
Yeah.
but a basic outline, yeah, I have done that.
So you see, like I got to see a video just the other day. I wrote a ritual out for somebody, and my rituals are dark and they're usually solitary and they involve a little bit of incantation. It's gonna be in the dark most likely. There's gonna be flame and candle. There's going to be blood and venom. And I wrote a ritual in this style for a person that videotaped it. And the way they approach magic is completely different than me. And he did it at a campfire with his family present. And it was just a completely different vibe, a completely different mood. It looked like two completely different types of magic from the same ritual. It was really interesting to see, you know, how he approached it and the parts of it that were important to him and what he needed to get out of it.
Yeah, so that is interesting. It's like everybody has their own spice to add to whatever is going around,
Yeah,
their own twist. So
definitely.
yeah, but yeah, Eric, it's been a very good chat, very good spiritual chat. Um, Appreciate your time and you coming back on. Um, and everyone who's watching, make sure you check his links out below in the video description. Um, and anything you want to add before we call it a day?
Check out the Book of Sin and Shadow. It's my poetic grimoire that I just came out with. Check out my Substack. That's where I blog. There's lots of deep insight into metaphysical theory, into poetics, into seduction and magic. A lot of different rocks that we'd like to turn over and see what's crawling beneath them. So
Yeah,
check that out.
and check that out. All those links will be below in the video description. And everyone who's watching, make sure you like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.